to live and to love the gospel of the Lord.
Heart to Heart, a Catholic media ministry, presents an inspiring gospel reflection by Father Michael Sparrow. Father Michael is a Jesuit priest working as a writer and retreat master at the Bellarmine Jesuit Retreat House outside Chicago.
The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes, so that it may bear more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word I spoke to you. Remain in me as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit. Because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire and they will be burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want and it will be given you. By this is my Father glorified. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. I'm not a great gardener by any means, but I do love this image of Jesus as the vine and all of us as the branches. Jesus uses so many different analogies to describe our relationship to him. I am the good shepherd. I am light. I am the bread of life. I am living water. In today's image, I am the vine, you are the branches. Each one of those images has a particular power and takes our meditation in a different direction. But Jesus, as the wise storyteller and master teacher that he is, realizes that we as human beings love images. We think in images. Images help us. They're not scientific formulations. They're poetic expressions that when we sit with those images, they expand our mind and they help to open our heart. And so I would just invite you in this season of springtime, when new life is budding forth all around us, that we sit with that image and mold it over in the course of our day of Jesus, you are the vine, we are the branches, and I want to remain close to you. Tomorrow at Bellarmine, we're going to have a gardening day. All of you are welcome to come. Our volunteer gardeners will be gathering to do some planting and inevitably the pruning that comes as part of the process, cutting away the dead stuff so the new life can continue to grow. Jesus ends today's gospel by saying, whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit. Each one of us want to bear those good fruits of greater faith, stronger hope, more abundant charity that's expressed in the deeds of love. But he says the price for that fruit is a pruning. And you know that pruning is always painful, and none of us want to be pruned. One of the more recent acts of pruning that's going on in my life right now is Father Mackey, who's the superior of the Bellarmine community, said, Michael, you have entirely too much stuff and you're spreading out over the entire retreat house in the Jesuit community, you need to cut back, and I am pruning you. So he said, you have stuff in like 4 or 5 closets. I want that to be consolidated into 2. Let me tell you, that's painful. But I've invited my sister as my birthday gift to come over and to help me with this process. So my sister and my brother-in-law came, and I asked my other sister to say, could you give me some money so I can hire some help to do some scanning of documents? And I called in some good friends to come over and to say, I need some help here. And the maintenance crew has pitched in. Anyway, we've thrown away 6 huge dumpsters of garbage and stuff that I didn't need. And I'm only about 2/3 of the way through. As we go through that stuff, I've been looking at these very important papers that I've been keeping since 1992. And I look at that and I say, well, that was really important 20 years ago, not so much now. What's the pruning that takes place within your own life? What is it that you need to let go of? There's the physical stuff, but the more difficult pruning is the stuff when people challenge us and they point out our own deficiencies and our shortcomings. And sometimes that comes gently with words of love, and sometimes it comes pretty harshly. And it's very difficult not to get defensive in the face of that. Wouldn't it be nice if the Lord just, gently whispers in our ear and says, Michael, you need to cut back and to clean your closets. I said, yes, Lord, yes, Lord. But when it comes in the form of a stern directive and say, look, buddy, you got a problem here, and I'm going to help you, it's difficult not to close down in the face of that. Case in point, in the early Christian community, the good fruit that is so much in evidence is a result of Paul's and Barnabas's ministry. They're preaching the gospel to the Gentiles. That's a good thing. And they come back and they tell all of these conversions that are going on. But with that growth comes the first major problem that really hits the early Christian community, and that's, do we have to follow the Mosaic law? What it meant to be a Jew was to follow the law. The Jewish people were proud of the fact that God had given them this law, and the mark of the law was circumcision for the men. Now, that may not be a big deal for the women who just say, go ahead and get circumcised. But let me say, for us men, this is a big deal. And so this is a controversy that rocked the early Christian community, and there's much tension and division in the midst of the early Christian community among people who wanted to serve the Lord, who loved the Lord, who were good people. And the question is, do you need this particular kind of pruning to show that you belong to the Lord? Or is there a different kind of pruning within your heart? Where are the areas of growth within your life? Bring those to the Lord. And pray that our hearts might be humble enough and patient enough to say, Lord, I really want to grow. I want to grow closer to you. Help me to let go of the dead wood. Help me to humble my pride. Help me to do whatever it is that's necessary to bear much fruit. And that is the Father glorified. And when we do that, we feel joy and his peace within our hearts. Amen?